Hello, and welcome to Scuttlebutt, the War Movie Review podcast. We're happy to have you with us as we take a look at films from the dawn of cinema to today. We aim to provide a raw and unapologetic review of each film's cinematography, historical accuracy, and delivery. In the process of analysis, certain details will be revealed. These spoilers are only divulged to ensure a fair assessment of each film. We joined the Dawn Patrol this week with Jean Renoir's 1937 epic, The Grand Illusion. As always, I'm joined by Mike B.
Yeah.
And Nate.
I will never make fun of you messing up the intro after last week. I had to point to Mike and say, pronounce this for me because I'm not even going to try.
But anyway, guys, what did you think?
A lot better than... So, you've been talking about this forever.
This is one of the French movies I talk about a lot, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, this was.
And I was going into it. Yeah. And you always boast about it and like how great it is and everything. And I actually he does.
No,
he does.
I know. I'm just waiting for
I'm
waiting for the other shoe to fall though.
Well, no, it's not because I'm building him up right now before I crush him.
Right.
So no, it actually I was like, oh fuck, it's 2 hours. Oh my god, it's a black and white film, but it has sound.
Made before 1940.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, oh fuck, but it's still 2 hours. I found myself not really like thinking about the 2 hour mark. It was like it went smoothly. It went nice. Edit that out. It flowed very well. And it made the time go by really quick because it was so well done. There was some funny things in the editing that we can get to, and I'll write that down. But as far as the acting and the actual story and like the plot, very good. So,
Nate, what about you?
Well, it was interesting. I had a technical difficulty I was battling. It was like kind of like a Rubik's Cube that fights back. My subtitles wouldn't line up with the movie no matter how hard I tried. It was always like a full 20 seconds ahead of what I was watching. So after about like an hour and a half of trying to fix that, I said fuck it, and so I just like watched it. And so like I'd read the conversation and then I'd be like, okay, in about 20 seconds, what I just read will happen. So then I have to contextualize it with that. So I had an extra level of difficulty, but I liked it. It was very interesting.
Can I?
Yeah,
Nate, can I please interrupt you and like just
tell me how I'm going to fix that?
When you're talking, when you're talking about the subtitles not lining up. So I clicked on a subtitle file when I first started watching this.
Yeah. That's what I did.
It was not the correct subtitle file. It was from a previous film that we had watched called Waltz with Bashir. And so at the beginning,
that's a big difference.
I hear 26 dogs or 30 dogs. How do you know it was 30? Or how do you know it was 26? And I'm like, what the fuck? And like, but here's the thing: is they lined up in the first like scene when they're at the little cafe, like the officers. And I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, what? This is really weird language. And all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, we rounded up all these guys when we were in Palestine. And I'm like, at the beginning of the war, we were in Palestine. And it was the captain scene, like when they first introduced the captain.
Right,
and I'm like,
at the dinner table.
What the fuck? Yeah. And I'm like, how was he why was a Frenchman in Palestine at the beginning of the war? And all of a sudden, then it started to like disconnect.
Right, yeah.
And it was not lining up. But until then, it lined up. The subtitle file lined up perfectly. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I have to go back and watch the first 5 minutes of this film. And I'm like, hopefully there's a fucking subtitle file that's actually for this film. And there was.
Right.
But it was like, oh my God. So yeah, like subtitles were a problem for both of us. Mine, my own error, my own dipshittery.
Yeah.
Yours just didn't line up.
I just don't know what it was. And it's not like, and someone will be like, oh, just download a new file. I downloaded 4 of them. I think it was my Plex player just not wanting to do stuff. But it was no, I mean, like, apart from that, like it was good. I mean, it's 1937. I mean, again, put it in the same like black and white box and judge it from that thing. And no, I really liked it. It was interesting. I again, I was struggling with the subtitles, so my attention wasn't quite on par. But I mean, it was definitely different. It's not the normal format, I will say. But I'm very curious to see what Brian has to say about it, because for me, it was like, okay, it's before 1965, so it's a certain format. So just, it is what it is. But I'm just curious to know what you think.
It's an interesting movie. I mean, I saw it a long time ago, and I didn't realize how much of it I forgot. Like all I really remembered was, oh, French officers trying to escape from a POW camp. It was really cool, and there was a German officer with a jaw like fucking harness. Like that's what I really remembered from it. And like over the ensuing years since I saw it, probably 15 years ago, I've randomly heard about it or recommended. And this that thing. I always had good blessings or well wishes with it. Um, and watching it again, yeah, it definitely delivered. And I remembered parts, and I didn't remember other parts. But no, it's just really good for multiple reasons. Um, but just to sum it up, I think it's the really really good bookend to the original All Quiet on the Western Front. I really feel like those two movies kind of encapsulate the World War One experience. If you're going to watch two pre-war films about, pre-World War II, that is, films about the First World War, those are the two to watch, because they're very, humanizing films. That's what I forgot about this movie, which I really liked. How it really just goes to show, people in situations. And I loved how there's just so many interesting ways that they included characters. Like the first time you see one of the British officers, he's stomping on his watch. It's like, oh, you want my watch? Fuck you. And that's the guy later on that's, in full drag and he's singing, Les Miserables and everything. And I love how they introduced the Russian officers, just that was very cool. It was amazing subtle filmography or, cinematography and stuff. It was really cool. And it's really interesting how they solve certain problems. Like, when they're in the beginning, when they're in the French airport and they're like, okay, we're going to leave. And they go walk out and then a German pilot walks in. I love that, because in reality, they couldn't afford to show any dogfights or planes or anything like that. So what's a neat trick? You do that. And it works. It works so well. Like,
it's also understood. It's like you don't.
Like exactly. Like if you do that today, people would be like, I can't understand it, because you have to walk fucking people through plots today. Nobody can jump to conclusions or think through things. But
they still walked through it, but it was like it's in such a way that like us 90 years later can realize that okay, a dogfight happened. There was a fight in the air. This is the guy that did it. Whatever, because of what he's saying. The writing is good.
Yep.
So,
and I almost like want to get one made. I love the French sign in the French bar about alcohol.
Yeah.
That was really great. For those that don't know, it went, alcohol here is forbidden. It makes you insane. The unit commander drinks. So.
Right.
So
right.
well done.
I do think that I want to know what that neck thing. I've never seen that neck thing ever. Like ever in my life.
I think it was just a period.
Or whatever.
I think it was just a period medical device, because he said his
spine
on
was the German
broken.
officer. Yeah, exactly what Brian
because
said.
His
spine was broken.
Oh, okay.
He mentioned his spine is broken and that he wears white gloves because he's got burns over his whole body. For pilots, either
I missed that.
Either
and that must have been through the subtitle
or
battle that I missed that. Okay.
You crashed and burned.
Okay.
Like
dude, if you didn't have subtitles for this, and you don't speak German or French,
I will
there's no way.
Again, it was like I think I compared it to fighting a Rubik's Cube. It's like every time I think I have a grapple on, it's like I gotta pay attention and remember what happened.
Okay.
What was said 20 seconds ago, and then watch it.
No, and it's not a big deal. Like it happens.
Well,
so like
it was. Yeah. I was gonna say though that I need something like that for my snoring. I think my wife would want that.
But there were so many creative ways of filmmaking in this. Like, if you think of subtly what they were doing, like with how the guy had his arm injured, the pilot in the crash, or he was actually the photographer, I believe. And then slowly he loses his
No, he said he was
cast.
the pilot, by the way.
Oh, okay, it was the pilot. So like over time, he loses, he heals. So the period of time has passed. And then with the whole Verdun thing, and there's just a few other little things they did to show that time was passing. I thought that was really cool because it can be very hard to do with films. Like look at The Shining. It's like, yeah. How do you tell progression of time or show progression of time? And I think they did a really good job with that. And also, while I'm there, like how close the guards got, the Germans and the prisoners, because there's a period
that was
of time.
not uncommon.
Yeah, I think of Die Hard first. Helsinki syndrome. Helsinki, Sweden.
Well, they were
Stockholm
like
syndrome.
I was gonna say Helsinki, Sweden, as in Helsinki, Sweden.
Yes.
Finland.
Yeah, it's just the holidays, so I just watched it, so I thought of that. But yeah, because like the scene where the guy goes in and he's like, hey, "Here's some cigarettes, here's a harmonica," and I just want to hear French. I just want to, like, love that line.
Yep.
Such a powerful scene, and the guy's like literally trying to be compassionate. Like,
I do think though the year it being made is very relevant to I think probably how good you find the little details, Brian, are. I really think that has a huge thing to play with it. 25 years after,
This is when,
give or take.
French noir was really at its early peak before the war. Because it's very interesting. I mean, if you like study cameras and things and stuff, like the 20s and 30s was very experimental. And the Russians and the French were really the first people to take cameras off tripods and play with them and do crazy shit. So you get these really incredible films. The Germans as well, actually. They had a lot of crazy things in the 20s, like Dr. Mabus's cabinet and that bullshit. But so yeah, you get these really crazy films during this time, where you have all these different ways of doing things that you just don't usually see later on. And it's just, cool to see those aspects. It's just that pre-war thing. This is like what would lead up to, like Gone with the Wind. And that style of like, huge showcase stories and things. And also it's something neat to show the times. At one point, the guy was like, "Oh, I'm an actor, He's like, "Oh, the theater's, too much for me." And he's talking about theater, plays and things like that. Where today, if someone says they're an actor, what do you think of? Oh, you're in movies, So it's interesting that like, that time was just different. It just through and through this film just shows that it's set in the late teens in Europe, There's nothing that pulls you out of that, even though it was 20 years later.
Well, and also another really interesting thing is like they never actually say what year it is, right?
They just with the Verdun thing, they allude to it.
Right. Well, that's the thing is like I found that very interesting because like I had to go and like I'm like, yeah, Douaumont, that fort that they kept trying to recapture outside of Verdun, that was in 1916. So it's like, okay, but that was in like early, like it started in February and it ended in like May-ish. And then there was still some battles, obviously, but like, so that's when this film takes place without actually saying it. And that's what I loved about that is like, they don't ever say, oh, wherever the hell we are in Germany or France, 1916. It is. It is what it is. And if you know, you know. So that was actually a pretty cool thing, I thought.
Exactly. They keep playing with that. The time is an illusion and that, things don't matter and things. It's just, which I love too, because they keep showing like, the fact that the war is going to end soon isn't the illusion, but the fact that you're going to escape is the grand illusion. So that's like the whole play in the actual thing.
Was it?
I believe so, yeah.
Because there's no clear answer given, in my opinion, to what is the grand illusion. Because there's so many. You know what I mean? Like I know they're in a POW camp. I get that, but like it's the other reason I actually like this film a lot is because they never actually say what is the grand illusion. And I think personally, like my interpretation of this, because everybody interprets art differently, is my interpretation is the grand illusion is war in itself. And they thought it was going to be over soon. The Germans thought it was going to be over soon, and it's not. And they also did allude to that quite a bit during this film. and I appreciate that. But like that doesn't mean that's the grand illusion of the film. Like, so again, you think it's one thing, I think it's another. That's what I love about actual art.
Exactly. It's about our individual interpretations, and I could see how you could see that, but I really feel like, again, opinions are like assholes, but that
Oh, for sure.
with the illusion of things will get better. I think we can draw it down to that.
Yep.
The things will be a quick end, and also
we can get out of here.
Yeah,
we can get out of here.
And besides, random colonial battles that are because you're conquering someplace over multiple years. Traditionally battles have a season. It's like they used to say that in Afghanistan. It's the fighting season because everyone goes home in the winter. And traditionally fighting was like that. Okay, your country's going to war. You go to the battlefield, the field where we have the battle. The battle happens. There's a victor or a decisive thing that leads to the next big battle, 100, 200 miles away. And
this part of the army marches in and takes over. And then that part of the army goes back home.
Exactly. Yep. And that's how it was fought. But World War I just turned into this meat grinder of just like going back, going forward, and hell at the front. So, it just turned into this horrible thing. But you still had this gentleman Napoleonic era style of officer, like gentlemanly corps. Yeah. And that's this, movie really hits a chord with.
Well, and especially with pilots. So with pilots in the First World War, they were regarded in such high esteem, like every country that I can think of. I don't know, maybe there's an exception, but like from everybody that I've researched, if there was a pilot that was shot down and they had recovered them alive, they were treated like they were in this film, like one of their own. But like, yeah, you're a prisoner, but you're an esteemed human being. And that was something that I thought they did pretty fucking well, because really no other films really get it. They're like, oh, you're a pilot, oh, you're gonna be shut down and dragged, by whatever. No. It wasn't like that. Pilots, like, I don't know what it was. It was a combination of the old aristocracy and the old way of doing things and the honor and the kind of not chivalry, but like the kind of like just respect thing, that they go, oh, you have the balls to put yourself in that fucking thing flying above the battlefield. Okay. And you're an officer? Because you notice how they said, if they're officers, bring them here. If they're not, whatever.
Exactly.
And there were NCOs and like enlisted guys that flew planes. And so that's, if you're an officer and you're flying a plane, well, let's dine.
I think that, some people know this, but not everyone does. But, flyers in the First World War, regardless of their nationality, were the knights or the cowboys, they were the superstars of the era, like to the point where even after the war, they used to have baseball cards were a very big thing, starting in the teens and the 20s. They also had warbird cards, where you would get a card. If you bought gum or something, gum was very common. They sold cards with back in the day. You get World War I flyer, like Eddie Rickenbacker, or the Red Baron or something. And they had a whole series of cards. And my grandfather actually collected them in the 20s and 30s. And we still have about 200 of them that he collected in the Bronx. But it's just, that was in the culture. That's how big these guys were, and that's why after the war, you have all these films that emphasize the fighting in the air, like Hell's Angels, Wings. Wings is a silent film that won the first Oscar for Best Picture. And it's a World War I film about, death in the air over Europe in the First World War. So, the pilots had this chivalristic, the last knights, the last, just higher whatever order a fighter, and that did exist for a little while in the Second World War, especially with the German POW camp system. How like the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, would try to have their own, POW camps for other flyers, and the conditions usually were a lot better there. Like when we talked about, I think we talked about this when we did Stalingrad 17. Or Stalag 17.
Stalag,
yeah, because yeah, right. They had the different camps, and they were all
in 3017. They invaded again.
But what do you call it? And also in Hogan's Heroes, they touched on that. They were in a Luftwaffe controlled camp. Because all those German guys were in the Luftwaffe. So, but yeah, it's interesting. But I know what you mean, though. It's not today it's the, oh my God, the Viet Cong are gonna drag you out of the swamp by your fucking eyelids, and that they're gonna burn you in the streets of Ramadi because you got shot down or something. It's a
Yep.
much different
Very different. Very
view.
different.
I'd say post World War II, like Devotion is a perfect example of that story where movie just came out. It's about two Navy flyers during the Chosin Reservoir, and how one guy basically his plane got shot up and he had to land, and the other guy decided to land as well, and he crash landed his plane and they were able to get through it together. The first guy ended up dying, but still, it's the wingman code. It's just you're going to always risk yourself for that guy, and he's always going to risk yourself for you. It's like even today with Top Gun and bullshit, like all that, it all applies into that, like a bit of that chivalristic, like there's only so many of us in the sky, whatever.
Well, but like World War One, it was even more so.
Oh no,
because,
yeah, that's what it began.
it was like
but,
it was insane. It was like you're an officer, but you're also willing to do that. Like I said, but like
and a gentleman.
I'm gonna put myself in the sky in a matchbox.
Correct.
Worse than that.
Correct.
Worse than that.
a tinder box.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And those French, if you look at the French design, I think they were in FE2s, which is the pusher observer planes, and they were horrible.
The pusher.
I was
Really-
about to say
they're
it.
really
You beat
bad.
me to it.
I'm the pusher.
I was debating whether I
But
was
yeah,
gonna say that. Yeah.
There was a really, really cool video game called Rise of Flight that was like a World War I flight simulator that was like insane. It took like an hour to take off, but once you did eventually get in the air, it's like you literally had the best simulated World War I combat ever. Fucking insane.
Yeah, so like whichever plane they were in, they got shot down by this German pilot, which we also don't know what plane he flew.
Probably a
Could have been a
Fokker.
DR1.
Could
have been
a
a-
what?
Probably a 7 or
A
a
what?
14. Those are the more common ones. The ones were pretty rare.
In 16 though?
What was the plane's?
Yeah, okay.
What was the plane model name?
Fokker.
Brian said Fokker. Like
Yeah,
fucking
Fokker.
meet.
I say
Brian's
Fokker.
Brian's from New England.
It's
He
a
doesn't know how to
Fokker.
pronounce
Fucking
shit.
meet the Fokkers.
It's a Fokker. Yeah.
Fokker.
Meet the
yeah,
Fokker.
see the Fokker.
Like
the fucking
You ever hear-
I
Fokker
flew that.
DR5.
I flew that Fokker over there.
You ever hear the RAF joke? It circulates a lot.
No.
So there was this RAF pilot in the 70s, and he was going around to schools and talking about how he fought in the Battle of Britain. And I believe he flew Hurricanes. So he was talking about this one time where I was coming in hot, and I had these two fuckers on my ass, and I had to get out of there. And the teacher goes, "Oh no, he actually means fuckers like the German planes." And the pilot looks at her and goes, "Yes, that is true, but these are two fuckers." So then he like goes through the whole thing and everything. So,
I
yeah.
think I
Christ.
did read that somewhere posted
It pops up a
somewhere.
lot.
Yeah, it was like a,
but it's
it was
a
like
funny.
it was a news
funny
clipping.
thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very, very quaint, funny story. I love it.
But shit like that. It's yeah. But
Yeah, so DR3 is the triplane, and then
I took my colostomy bag, covered him in shite, and said, "Get out of that fucker, you fucker! Get out!"
the DR8 was the monoplane, because I've actually seen one that was in real life.
that was the
and it
albatross.
smelled-
No.
No, the DR8 was the fucking mono. It's a mono.
Yeah.
It's, but it was a rotary engine that ran on fucking castor oil as a lube.
Most of them did. That's why they had the scarves.
Well, and also they couldn't figure out why their pilots would like land, and like I had to shit fucking now.
Immediately. Yeah.
Like I'm sick. I'm gonna throw up. I had to shit.
Cars
It's like, well,
had the same problem because they used castor oil too at the very beginning. And do you know the scarf thing?
No.
Of it.
So
I
you-
mean,
oh,
I mean,
sorry,
I know why that. I knew that was the reason why they wore it.
So
but-
while the reason that they had long scarves wasn't because they wanted to look dashing, it was because these fucking planes leaked oil like a sieve, and the oil makes you shit, like Mike just alluded to. So what
Yeah.
they would do is they would have these big scarves and they'd wrap them up around their heads, and as they would get soiled with oil, they would let them out. So the
Mhm.
longer they flew, the longer the scarf would go because they would let another loop of the scarf out. So that's the whole
Okay.
scarf thing in the First World War. It was basically a
makes
way
sense.
so that you would stop the oil from getting into your, nostrils and eyes. They said I think it was 90 minutes to 2 hours was the max for fuel and also
Yeah.
for shit range.
With the fucking DR8, the
Yeah.
one that I've actually seen in real life,
Mhm.
that was cut all those
Shit.
numbers of like 30 minutes, whatever, in like a quarter. It was faster, it was louder, but it was a lot faster. This fucking thing is really fast.
Oh yeah.
Compared to the DR3 and whatever. But it's like, dude, your pilot's gonna fucking die.
Yep.
Like your pilot's gonna shit his brains out in the fucking cockpit and like throw up and like he's gonna die. Like, but they actually they made, I don't know how many they made of the DR8. But like
Not
that
many.
thing is
It's very small numbers. Like the
it's-
German tanks.
And I actually get to see one, and I actually got to see one crash, which is fun. No, he's okay. Like, and the plane was like, he's like, oh, it's about 10,000.
he lost 2 toes. He's good to go. You know.
10 grand worth of damage on this fucking plane. But like, no, they're small, but like that rotary engine, when it was like, because the DR8 was like, okay, so the DR3, like the triplane that we think of, right? Like the big fucker, like the Red Baron flew. That's a big plane.
It's called a Fokker.
Depending where you come from.
Sorry, go.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Nate.
No, this one was a fucker.
So the DR8, the engine is literally right in front of the fucking pilot. Like, I mean, like the top quarter is right in front. So the well, it might be the same on the DR3 and all that shit. But like, dude, we were standing behind the thing when it fired up, and I was like, in my mouth, I could taste the castor oil, and I'm like,
I already started the shit. No,
Yeah.
you.
oh fuck, and I'm like, this is fucked. And then the guy, but like, dude, a DR8, like, anyway, it's getting off topic, but anyway, planes back then, it was still like, it had to take fucking massive balls, because if somebody else doesn't shoot you down, you're probably going to go down from some malfunction or something or whatever. So it's like massive balls. Yeah.
It's like, you know, you're on the fringe of technology where a bicycle mechanic and a glider pilot said, I have an idea that I think might work. Maybe.
The guy
And it-
who made a bike with big wheels designed, you know,
Yeah,
like,
and it is
And
a
no
joke.
problem, boss. We're going to attach a machine gun to it. Actually, we're going to do 2 machine guns to it. And it'll be all right, the weight and everything. We've got to calculate it, but, you know, it is what it is.
I do find it very impressive because I don't know how I remember this, but I had watched it somewhere, and I never had realized that the machine gun was attached to like behind the prop, and it would shoot between the prop rotation.
Well,
Yeah, there was a device that came. Well, at first there wasn't, and
I mean,
Just-
correct me. I mean,
So-
I know I'm probably wrong. It's just
No, you are correct.
I know
You are correct.
of a system like that. I'm sure they changed
Yes.
it or made it better. I was just blown away that was even an idea. Like,
yes,
this is where I don't want to overstep Mike's knowledge because he knows way more about the First World than I do. But I have read a little bit about Richthofen and things. And I have a really awesome book that shows every single kill, who he killed, where it was. So I've studied a little bit. So as far as my understanding of this, I know that Mike can add on to or tell me I'm wrong. I don't know if I'm adding or I'm just interjecting shit, but I do know a little bit on it. So for the other part of the war, planes were really observation pieces. And then they were like, oh, look at that fucking guy with Maltese crosses on. I got a rock, or whatever. Like it literally did start out with that happening. And then with observation planes and stuff, you really only had an observer who would sometimes be armed with a rifle, and that was for more
not even
survival
that.
stuff. That really wasn't to shoot at planes, but then it turned into it. And slowly throughout the fall of 1914, they started arming planes more and more and more. And then they started putting machine guns on them and stuff. And yes, Nathan, in the very beginning, they did mount machine guns on planes behind the props, but they had no provision at all to stop the bullets from shooting through the props. And that became a really big problem. They actually would put armor plates on the back of the props to try to deflect it. And that became even a bigger problem. Some countries and some designs, like this, I think the SPAD, they had a design where they had a Vickers machine gun on top of the wing, and where you would basically pull it back, put a new drum in, and then push it up so that you wouldn't have to worry about bullets arcing through the prop itself. And it wasn't until I think 1916 that there was a Dutchman. I want to say Spitzer, but I think that's wrong. But it started with a Dutch guy with the name of S. He came up with an interrupter system where basically there was a rod that was connected to the firing device on the machine guns, and it would run to a plate that was mounted on the flywheel of the rotor, and wherever a machine gun or wherever there was a prop blade would come up, it had a little like a nudge or like a little. I'm getting the word wrong. It had like a little depression, tooth, yeah, or your gear tooth, and it basically would just go bop 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 bop, so that whenever it was in line, it would stop from shooting, and that is what stopped them from shooting through propellers, because it was a really big problem. Like you could.
Well, they also had to go with the ballistics of the fucking bullet, of like the speed that it was going to be traveling from this point to that point, and so like they engineered that rod, which is very impressive, and they actually used that. I cannot remember either. I know it's an S, but like
Something.
It's something, but like that.
Spiegelheim. I'm gonna go with that.
Spiegelheim.
No, Schlickman.
Schlickman, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, so that was the device that
Was his
actually
name
most
Don?
people.
Oh, okay.
Not very Dutch,
Yeah.
but I'll go with
Donald.
it. Yeah, Don Schlickman.
Donald.
Don
Our
Donald
Dutch,
Schlickman.
our Dutch engineer buddy.
Yeah, our Dutch.
But
He
yeah,
spent a
you're
lot of
correct.
time in the Far East too.
Yeah.
But anyway.
You're correct on that part of it, like the device that like did that, and that still baffles the shit out of me and a lot of other people. It's like
Fascinating.
so it's like that propeller is going at, I don't know, 800, 900 rounds per minute, right? Just constant. And then to like do the math to like get that accurate where you're not going to shoot and they're wooden props, by the way.
Yeah.
People are listening. They're wooden props. They're propellers. And it's like, that's fucking awesome. But it worked very well. Now, where you were wrong is when they first started using planes, yes, it was for reconnaissance, mostly. They didn't start issuing guys with rifles because they were like, well, you're just going to fly this. And also a rifle's added weight. And so that was their mentality at this point, right? But it started to become like guys were flying next to each other, like say a French and a German or an Austro-Hungarian and an Italian fighter or recon plane were flying beside each other. They'd be like, well, if that fucker sees my position, we're fucked. And vice versa. And so they started like literally taking their sidearms and they would start shooting at each other when they would get really close. And then it escalated, and then they would take, grenades, hand grenades, and they'd try and throw it at the planes. And then they were like, well, if we get low enough and we can drop a grenade on the target while there, then bombs started to be produced. Okay, well, all right, go, let it go. Bam, drop a bomb on the trench. Bam, you've got 5-6 guys out of the fight. Cool, if you hit your target. And the rifle thing, a rifle's very unwieldy and not useful at all in the air. And so, from my knowledge, they did not issue rifles to pilots and co-pilots in the First World War, of fighter and reconnaissance planes. Zeppelins, blimps, all that shit, yes, perhaps. But, yeah.
No, finish your thought.
But as far as fighters, it started out as literally guys just shooting pistols, and then they started dropping bombs, and they're like, well, we can actually put machine guns on this thing so you can shoot down the enemy recon plane, and you can do your recon, and then we're good. This is all in like 1915 as well. So this is later than 14. It started in 14 with the guys like shooting at each other with pistols and shit. And they were like, oh, okay, fuck, whatever. 15, it started, of course, just like everything in the First World War, it started escalating. And it's like
we talked about in our Christmas special, that it really wasn't until January, the spring of 15, where people were set in the mindset of war and where things really, began like that. Because even in the East, Richthofen doesn't get his first kills until mid 1915 on the Eastern Front. So again, that's even on over there, it starts heating up. But yeah, it's very interesting. That's how it kind of all got fleshed out. And I know observer planes, they did have rifles, because there are photos of them. And I only say that because I know that the Fliegergewehrs, the automatic flying rifles of the First World War, have very heavily influenced the German designs after the war. And then there was also an American 03 that had a box magazine that was designed
the
for
Pedersen
observers.
device, or the air service device.
The air service device,
yeah.
Yep. And they don't have like a forearm. They look really cool.
Okay, so that was later on. Yeah. My bad. You are correct.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You are correct. I misspoke. At this point in the war, they would not have rifles, to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
but later on they started doing that. Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know what
but
you're saying now.
as the war as a whole, and I forgot to contextualize it, but
That's all
so
good.
yeah, and you also and so yeah, what I was saying, but yeah, so CN Arsenal has a really cool video about the air service rifle. You guys should check that out. If you haven't heard of them, also check them out. They're fucking awesome. Really good gun videos and stuff, and just
Yo,
they know what
Dias,
they're
yeah,
talking.
he's a good guy. Yep.
Awesome.
He knows
I-
his shit.
Yep.
You always see them walking around shows or stuff, like the big military shows and stuff, and it's just like, the real collectors, the real, they love this stuff. They don't do it to make videos, so check them out. Now I'm over the plug, but yeah, then they also had a really cool French rifle, a Berthier, that was an air service rifle. It had like a show magazine on the bottom.
Yep.
And those are fucking cool.
Yeah, that was very late war though, and that
Oh,
was
yeah.
like
And
when
I
things
know-
escalated.
I know
so
things
much.
have been called. I know they've been called survival rifles too, which I could see because the Luftwaffe in the Second World War, they even had a drilling. A drilling is a shotgun that has a rifle caliber barrel as well, the third barrel, double barrel.
Yes.
And the Luftwaffe
Yes.
had a drilling during the Second World War for survival. And there's some great photos of guys in North Africa loading them into BF 110s and Stukas and stuff. Because like, well, you get shot down, you want to have something
Yep.
better than than 9mm. So.
Yeah, I definitely misspoke. But like
No
for this
worries.
point in the war, I don't think they would have had rifles
No.
in
No.
16. They might have started later in the year, but like yeah.
And it was cool
It's-
too to talk about the other real aspect of the movie, the whole POW part of it.
Right.
You know-
right.
And with the fact that the Germans did have POW camps for people that escaped too much. And I thought it was very interesting. Now, I've read the original book, The Great Escape, which is amazing. I recommend to anybody. The book is way better than the movie. Not that the movie's
It always
bad.
is.
The movie's amazing, but just the book goes into more detail of the actual events, and it's just like, holy fuck. How these guys figure the escape
Well, the
out.
books are always like 99% of the time better
Well,
than the movie.
yeah, but you just get like, I'm just not saying like they left this out of the movie. What the fuck? It's like they left this
But you
bit of
can't
information
put
that's
everything
like
into a movie. Though.
Oh, I
That's
know.
the thing is like you can't.
But what's interesting is that
Watch me.
in the book they talk about all the stuff they came up with, to like get rid of the dirt and things like that. And it's just very interesting to me that this movie, because again, it's the same exact problem but a different war, shows the exact ways that they came up with in a film 2 years before the start of the war. So I wonder
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
if there was an influence there. If someone saw
Yep.
something that, what about, because this is very interesting how like,
In the Grand Illusion, they dispose of the dirt by taking it through bags and camouflaging it in the gardens.
and they're British and they're French and they're American officers
Correct.
who, at least the Europeans, would be cultured and probably would have seen military era or your 30s era films from the continent, as they would say. So like,
Right. Right.
it's just, I thought that was very interesting. So
That-
I'm like,
I was thinking
really
about that too.
wonder
That's
if
a
there's
great point.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope there was because I'm glad those guys got out.
Oh yeah.
It sucks that they got shot, but the guys that escaped knew that was a possibility. And
79.
no, if it helped, if it helped those guys get out by just watching the film, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's,
But yeah, it's very because okay, they were doing the tunneling, right? And they go, okay,
that was really cool.
we have this system going on for like, well, for if I'm starting to suffocate, I'm going to pull this string, blah blah, a little bit of a tension moment, but like and also they kind of supported the walls with wood, but they really didn't. Like it was very obvious when he took the first like dig, it was like shit fell, and I'm like, oh god, that's not good. But they're like, yeah, so we have a breathing system in here. This gets air into there, and it also signals, blah blah blah. And so it's like it's very rudimentary, but it's the right idea of if you're going to be tunneling. And yeah, so who knows if it did influence those people.
I love the cup scene. I thought that was really well done, and it's so French noir.
Which cup scene?
Where he's like he's passing out in the tunnel, and he goes to
Yeah.
pulls and it falls on a pillow. It's like
Oh,
fucking
yes, it falls
like,
on a pillow.
That's
Yeah,
so French noir.
that's what I said. It's like
That's,
it builds
and
tension
then-
because you're like,
Yeah, and that's where
Um,
what's really cool because the cinematography comes in because like the one guy is pacing the room. He always has the kepi on, like with the beard and stuff. He's like he goes to look up, and you think he's gonna see it, and then the
He
door
doesn't.
opens, and he's like, "What?"
He's
And it's like,
distracted.
oh, fucking,
Yep.
it's so well shot, and there
And
were
then the
so
one
many
guy,
times.
the
Yep.
guy that comes in
Yeah,
from going to the shitter goes, the signal.
yeah, uh-huh.
He's the only one because everybody else is so distracted
Yep.
by,
hear the
what's going on
noise or-
outside, and he's like, oh, and they pull him up just in time and, get him fixated on like life,
Mhm.
Instead of dying. But
Cognac will regenerate every man.
yeah, and then when he's like more, and he's just like, fucking, I mean, that's a traumatic thing. He's gonna have a headache too. Like, you pass out for that long, you're gonna have
Brain
a fucking
damage.
massive headache.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And
And
while we're on that too, it was cool like the little colloquialisms where like they all talked about different parts of Paris, and it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
how the
Even
higher
the Germans did.
yeah, like the higher aristocracy, they were like talking about
Yep.
the really ritzy places, and the other guys were talking about and then later
Yeah.
on, like an hour later into the
Yep.
film, they get to the castle and everything, and they're like, "Have you heard of the Maxim gun?" And the one guy's like, "Oh, I like the bar better." And the other guy's like, "Hey, you were making fun of me for that a year ago." Like
Right.
it's like that was the longest setup, but it worked. It panned out so well. It was a funny little stupid shit. And also,
Yeah,
while
exactly.
I'm on it as well, so the castle thing is interesting.
Mhm.
I'm not sure about the World War One iteration of this, but I know for a fact that during the Second World War, there was a castle named Coldlitz that they kept most of the finicky British officers at, and they still tried to escape it all the time. And there was one story: a guy built a glider in the attic, and he was gonna fly it out of there and shit, and like all these crazy stories. But they talk a lot about like, the things that went on in this camp, in this movie, like to happen in real life. Guys dressing in drag, having those shows like that.
Yeah.
Just all the stupid camp life, making things for plays and shows, like the whole car sequence and stuff. Like that definitely is a thing. So
So, did you notice anything about the guards?
they're all so old. They're all real-line guys.
Do you also notice what they're wearing?
Well, I was going to ask you about the uniforms. They looked really good to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously in black and white, but like, how many Belgians did you notice?
None. I'm not sure.
Okay, because it's in black and white. Because the French would have been wearing the Horizon. Well, actually, yeah, in 16 they would have been wearing the Horizon blue. The Belgians would have been wearing the khaki, and there was definitely several Belgians in with the French, and obviously they're going to speak French, right?
Yeah, fun. Yeah.
But, yeah. So
That's interesting. I bet if you had the ear for it, you would notice that because you could hear the difference. But
correct.
we're not Europeans.
And I don't have the ear for it, of course.
I loved how natural. I love how they show that there's Russians in the first camp. When the guy's like, you see, Russians like Latin, and it's like because I remember looking at the cap badge, and I'm like, what? I'm like, oh fuck, that's right.
Yeah, the oval. Yep.
Yeah, and then the scene when they got really pissed off, because they got the books instead of the caviar and stuff. That was great. They're like, it's gonna get pretty hairy in here. We gotta go.
Hey, Nate, focus in on one of the guards wearing the shako.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the Russian thing.
All right.
And the one,
JB, pull it up. JB, pull it up.
the one,
I'm telling you.
the French captain, I forget his name, who gets killed.
Yeah,
one
me
of the
too.
main
I don't
characters.
remember names. Cannot ask me names.
I just love his character for the whole film because he's that classic aristocracy of I'm in an event,
Yes,
but
he
this
is.
can't touch me. I'm witnessing this, but he's in a different plane, if that makes sense.
But he's also a very, very fucking loyal.
yeah, but he's a
and
down to earth,
good officer.
intelligent, but he's got that.
Okay,
that
right
air.
here. Freeze this,
Yeah.
Nate. Freeze this. Enlarge it. Who is the Belgian?
Enhance. The guy on the left, I'd say.
Uh-uh.
I don't know.
The guy in the back smoking the pipe. You notice the tassel on his fucking.
That's the
overseas
interesting.
kit?
I thought I saw that on French stuff, but he's a Belgian. Interesting.
He's a Belgian. Yep,
Huh.
and he's also got his regiment number on his cap and on his uniform.
That's cool.
Yep, he's a Belgian.
And I like they had the one colonial officer as well. That was really
Yes,
cool.
yeah, the black guy. Later on, and that's really accurate as well. Like they would still treat him because of the rank as a officer, and they'd be like,
Yep.
okay, whatever, go in and you get to hang out with these guys and whatever. But yeah, so there are Belgians, and also you look at Hogan's Heroes a little bit, and
Oh,
you
you're
kinda get the
fucking
beret.
right. Yeah, I
Can I get the
totally see
influence
that.
because it's the same character, or not the same character, but
Holy
like
shit.
a very similar character, right? So they've also seen this. He's wearing a beret, which is not a military issue beret at that point.
You know what? I like the scene too. This is so for people that can't watch it. Unfortunately, this is when he gets his package from home, the Rosenthal.
Uh-huh.
And I love
The
how
first
he's like, "Here you go, Mueller. Have a chocolate bar." That happened.
Yep, and he just fucks off.
You know, yeah.
The guard just fucks off.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
He's like, whatever.
Yeah, it's a little stuff.
So the Germans, Nate, can you get
it's
a
later,
shot?
It's later in the older guy.
No, it's not later. The Germans, like the guys.
The
So I want to talk about the
scene is so
uniforms.
Okay.
What?
I love that scene. The guy takes off his wig as he's like, "La Mazzara, please."
Yeah, they all like take them off like hats. I did like that.
Yeah.
I really need to learn the fucking French national anthem.
I do too.
Just call Henry up. He does a great rendition.
Well, yeah, Henry's a fucking well-versed son of a bitch.
I love that intro of him.
And his cousin Harry is even better.
Yeah.
But hey.
I just noticed the pipe rack in the back. How much?
Oh, it's an excellent pipe rack.
That is a very
Excellent
nice
pipe rack.
pipe rack. You know. That's how I judge homes.
So, but I want to talk about the German guards because they actually fucking nailed it.
They had
in
some
this
cool commission rifles I saw, M88s.
Right,
Not
and
all
do
of
you know
them had-
why that was?
Well,
And
it was a rear line rifle.
hey,
Right?
go back, Nate. It's like at the beginning when they're doing their introduction to the
Jamie.
first
Is,
camp.
is it the introduction like in the
Like when they're all sitting around and they're like, "Here's how it's gonna be
okay
in the camp."
Okay. Yeah, I'm pulling it up. It's after this. It's right around here.
Yeah. So I just want to show Brian this a little bit because you notice how there's Pickelhauben being worn, right?
They like they're police shakos or
Well, these
Well,
well,
they're
you
not.
have the bucket pail things. And then you have the
well,
pickle
No,
well, that's
that's
called
a
a
shako.
shako.
Okay.
That's a
But-
different name.
But it's not a police shako.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got the okay right there. Stop. So what do you notice, Brian, about the shako?
It's
and
got
about
the
that
Maltese
dude?
cross. Is that Imperial
Okay.
cross? Like are they like
No.
Imperial policemen or?
Nope. That is what's called the Landsturm. They were the guys that were 50 years of age or older or not fit for military service directly but not crippled. And these guys were like the third or fourth line of defense for Germany. They were activated. By 1916, these guys had been definitely activated. And they were given the most shitty of equipment possible. Yeah, you have a rifle that you probably are not familiar with, or you were. They actually issued 7184s out.
What
to these
is
guys.
that bayonet
Wow.
above his head? Because I'm looking
So-
at my board knife thing, and it's not.
So
the
in this
same.
scene, yes, this is the kind of dumb shit that I noticed. In this scene, that's a fucking Gra bayonet. No, that's not.
Yeah, I know it's not this though.
Yep, it's not that. It's not. But in the next scene, it is. But yeah, but like so. Anyway, these guys would have been issued 88s, 7184s, Chassepot rifles, Berthier rifles, Lebel rifles, fucking everything. Most of the guns. They would have been issued all of that shit that was captured because it was third and fourth line down.
See, like it.
And they were-
it's there.
yeah.
It's there in this. Scene.
Yeah, right there. It's a 9805.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's this one. That's
for
this
sure.
one right here.
I love that. I loved all the little details.
I love it too.
The things
When
that
I
they
first
took.
saw this, I was like, "Oh fuck, they actually got it right."
And for the 30s too, you know, because how easy because they did cast a lot of
Exactly.
young kids to play Germans because it was a German training camp. You know,
Right, but these old guys or the
Yep.
guys that were not fit somehow for military service. The only
even-
thing I would maybe bitch about is their ammo pouches. Those were the newer ones. They probably would have been issued the 1888 model, which is like just it looks like a medic pouch.
Mhm.
They maybe would have been issued those, but who knows?
I just noticed the
And- but,
camp
like-
commandant has the metal braid on his pickle helm as well, which is neat.
Yeah, because he's an officer. Yep.
And also, so I wanted to ask you about this mic too, but I think it might be different.
Mhm.
So I love in this shot where they, you know, have they're getting told the rules of the camp and everything. All the
Yeah.
different uniforms of the French officers and everybody else. And to
Mhm.
me, I was like, oh, you know, maybe they are like, you know, captured at
There's
different
the
times.
Russian. By the way.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe they're captured at different times during the war, like 14, 15, because we talked about a while ago that they're different style of uniforms. But it seems to be like they're a mix between pilots with like a dark blue uniform and infantry officers with like a horizon blue uniform. But originally when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's cool. They have like the different variations from when guys were captured. Because like, they had the different units in the early part of the war, the Zouaves and everything. And so.
And also, man, like the French uniforms in specific for the First World War are the most fucking egregiously non-consistent.
Hide your goals.
So so this guy's got the iron blue on, the pilot. Yeah, that might have been what they wore in a certain unit. They could have gotten the iron blue. Iron blue was mainly worn by Chasseurs d'Alpini. I know I butchered that. I'm sorry if you're French.
Alpine troops.
I fucked that up. Yes, with the mountain troops and maybe these guys. So it was a very hard dye to get and whatever. And so that's why in early 1915, they went to Horizon Blue. And they tried to issue everybody with Horizon Blue, even though the specialized troops were like, yeah, no, we don't want to do that. But like, okay, and so this guy, pause it. So that guy right there, you got the guy on the left who's a French officer, right? Nice kepi, nice color insignia, nice private purchase.
That is a nice kepi, I do have to say.
Fuck yeah, it's amazing. He's an officer, he's a flying officer too.
I have kepi envy, that's for sure. So,
yeah, do you?
Yeah,
do you?
I do right now.
So, Artur, the Feldwebel right here, the guy that they constantly refer to, he's wearing a 1908 greatcoat, right? Because it's a single-breasted, fucking, one row buttons. Also, he's got his rank on, and he's an NCO. He's got the collar discs on, and he's also wearing his Pickelhaube, right?
Mm-hmm. I didn't even notice the discs.
Yeah, the disc on his collar. That's an NCO. If you're a Gefreiter, you wear those discs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the shoulder boards come when you're, I think, I can't remember if it was Unterfeldwebel or Feldwebel in the First World War. But anyway, you get your shoulder boards, and then you get your tresse on the collar on that overcoat. But you still wear an enlisted Pickelhaube, right? That's just an enlisted Prussian Pickelhaube. Fucking awesome. The guy in the background wearing the fucking Schako, he's Landsturm. He's an old guy, too. You can see that.
That's cool that you noticed all these, or you mentioned all these things. I noticed that put detail to it. That's cool. And I had no idea they had collar discs on the tunic. Yeah, well, it's funny, when you watch a really well-made film, like especially with historical authenticity, like you just don't even notice the uniforms. It's like there, and it's not like
exactly.
Oh, it's a World War II movie with a plastic Vietnam era canteen. Oh, it ruins it. But it's like if you just have the right stuff for the right scenes, it's like it just it removes an element that you're looking for from the film.
We all want the right stuff for the right scenes because this is how it looked. Right here.
Yeah.
This is how it looked. This is how it was. And so, bam, it is what it is.
And that's why that's why it's easy to pick out the bad stuff.
Yeah. It is, but like here it's like I don't know French uniforms very well enough to criticize them, but I'd assume if they went along the same scale of the German uniforms, those would be good as well. And it's like here's the thing is we want to portray something on screen, okay, how it was. We're portraying a real event or, a fictional adaptation of a real event. Well, make it look like it actually would have been. This is it right here.
Not to, plug all of any of our work, but I guess I am. And I was a helper. I will emphasize that till the end of time. Mike was the actual armorer and quartermaster and, I don't know what the right term would be here, but, wardrobeist for our movie Reveille. But we went to the 9th degree to, get shit like flat top canteens, which none of you probably even know what a flat top canteen is, but it's a very early World War II plastic canteen top. Like, if we didn't have any flat tops in the movie, would people care? Probably not. But it costs the same to get, or a little more to get them, and they're in there, and it's what they had, so it's what we had. Like it just going that little extra step just helps to put the emphasis
Well,
and
and like
make it.
having
Period,
having an assistant BAR gunner having a BAR belt, something like that. Like
Yeah.
we just want to portray it how it actually was at that time when you're seeing this on film.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like, because when the visual part is done well, the acting, the writing, and all that stuff, everything ties in, and it actually becomes really, really good.
It's easier to mesh
And-
all those things together.
Mm-hmm.
And even for the actors too. I mean, because if you really think about acting, and
Yeah.
we won't go too hard at a tangent with this, but like, you're trying to convince yourself that you're experiencing a narrative as you convince other people. So like, if you break down the realities that you're in as an actor, it's like 3 or 4 at the same time, because you're this character in this
Yes.
moment, but you're also projecting yourself in this angle to these people who are going to see it in a certain way, and it's a lot to take into effect. So again, if I'm telling you you're in World War I, and I make you feel like you're in World War I, you're going to act like you're in World War I. And again,
it's funny.
there's different
Yep.
ranges to that, but I mean, if I fucking give you gruel and putties to wear for 6 weeks, it's going to suck. If I give you Under Armour with socks, that's going to be a totally different experience in a
different.
trailer. Like, it's just making it as right as possible usually costs about the same, and it just adds this element to the production. And also, again, after the fact, we're like, when you're constantly looking for stuff and you don't find it, like as a historian, you can just enjoy the movie.
Right,
It just takes this because you're just like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? What? Oh, wow, this is really cool. Like, and it's just, it makes it so much easier. And I feel like it's even for people that aren't into this kind of stuff. It's like, if it just looks right,
The acting is going to be, But here's the thing: is like, I want to touch on what you just said about like the actors, because we'll just use it one example, then we'll move on from the tangent. I guess is this guy's name is Feldwebel Autor, right? We had Unteroffizier Autor on our set as a character in our film, and when he put on that uniform, he said that it helped him a lot to get into that role. And I can imagine, I don't know who actually portrayed Feldwebel Autor in this film. I don't know the actor's name. But I'm sure because he's wearing the Pickelhaube, the fucking mantle with everything's decked out, that put him in the role to portray this person, this NCO, the way he did. And he did a great job. The acting is actually really good in this film, I thought, overall. And it's, so that's kind of the thing, is like noticing these niche fucking details, these stupid details. I go, well, that actually helps the actors. It really does. Because I've asked them, does it help you? And they go, yeah, it does. If I know every fucking thing on my uniform is because of this, this, and this, it helps it. And it's like, I can develop my character. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I thought it was just dumb me playing G.I. Joe in real life. Like, we're all 3 of us are reenactors. It's like, yeah, you could have fun and do all that shit. But it's like, actors, when you put that shit on and you say, here's what this is what this means, here's your rank, here's how you should be acting, blah, blah, blah. It helps them even before they step on set. And I think that it elicits a good performance. So
I couldn't agree more, and I'll end it with this. A few years ago, when I was more active in reenacting, we went to this event in Ohio called D-Day Conneaut, where it's a really big reenactment for the, D-Day landings in the States. They have like a huge beach landing and stuff over 2 days.
yeah.
And long story short, a buddy of mine really wanted to go. So I'm like, sure, come out with us. I'll give you everything, head to toe. I'll give you all you have to do is put it on. And it was 100% correct, first wave, Big Red 1, whatever, Omaha Beach, right? So he just puts it on. He's like, I'm wearing a uniform. This is cool. I'm a soldier. Back then, before COVID, there was a lot more D-Day veterans that were around. And there was one guy that was a Big Red 1 veteran, first wave, Omaha Beach, and used to walk around and talk to people. And some of my buddies, like they're at the event, and this first wave D-Day veteran looks up and down and goes, that's exactly what I wore when I assaulted the beach. My friend was like, holy fuck. He's like, I'm wearing what they told me to wear. Like, I don't know what this is called. He had no idea. He knew he had a Grand and like an M1 helmet. That's all he knew about it. So, and to get a compliment from a guy that was actually there, fucking, BRO first wave, like, was insane for him. For somebody that knows nothing about what he's wearing. So to extrapolate that for the actors and stuff, when you have the real shit and when you have everything down to a T, it's totally different,
And they did this in this film, I thought, and it fucking shows.
It just paints a picture, because like I'm working on a horror film right now, and we're talking about like they're like in a touristy area and stuff, and like how do you make the area look like they're different? So like younger kids compared to an older local populace or things like that. It's like the little things you do to set your narrative apart, and that's what they did in this. Well, they were old guards during the war, so we have old guards now, but they had old guards with the correct uniforms, and all this nichey shit that is just so awesome, and just adds the paint a good narrative. And again, I had no idea that they were wearing collar discs until you mentioned that, and now I can't not see them. And it's just there's so many details in it. Yeah, there's so many details in it. It's like the Arrow and FedEx.
Exactly.
I saw one yesterday and I started laughing.
Yep.
So there's one more thing I want to talk about. Then I think we can move into our IMDb. That's cool. So there's one shot that I loved. That I was like, holy shit, this is French noir from the 30s, and it's right at the end of the room inspection. Where the one guy runs in and warns them that, they're going to get their room inspected. So I want to bring that up, Nate. For those that don't know, there's a scene where they arrive at the new camp and they're inspecting it. And they're in this room and everything and whatever. They have some conversation and things, and it's interesting. But there's this great long shot, where basically they hold and the Germans leave, and then the other POWs come in, and it shot refocuses from close to far. And it just focuses on the characters in the back as you have one character in the front just keep doing what he's doing. And it was just a very, very interesting transition with a long shot for the era and stuff. And I was like, holy fuck when I saw it.
I didn't notice that this was a long shot. Like,
yeah, this is one take, the whole thing, which, as we know from some experience, that can be very hard. Yep. So this next shot. So they talk. He sits down. Who I think he's a Belgian, isn't he? With his hat.
He's got tassels.
Yeah, he's got a tassel on.
Yep. So, and then I love it how they stay with it. It's so easy to go to another shot for this scene, but they stay with it.
With the blurry guy in the
yes,
front,
and I love it. I love how they change the focus.
Damn,
that's all they do.
You're right. Damn.
I was like, oh my god, I love this.
But it's like you can see everything that's happening, even though he's in the front of it. So
but they stay with it though, and they dolly, and then I just like, and this is the continuous shot. Like, I just love it. When I saw this, I was like, this is fucking French filmmaking at its peak, at its pinnacle before the war, and it's just, I love that.
And then with
the filmmaker in me is like, I want to make it.
I'm going to bring up from very early on. There were a lot of really choppy fucking cuts.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Like,
and it just
but
goes
it's like,
to show the time.
Was that intentional, or was that? It's just like
1930s film.
Well, because a lot of them they're like mid talking, and then they just cut out, and like, it's an awkward cutout. You know what I mean?
Well, I really feel like that was just a product of the time, because today, like when I do my writing, I try to make things like puzzle pieces. Like, I want everything to mesh and work. And I really spent a lot of time on transitions. But back then it was just like, okay, next scene. Like fucking there's not a lot taken into it.
It literally is the film stopped being filmed, so that was the transition.
You do get a lot of ways they get around that, like again with the transition for the air bases where they got shot down. It's the German side now. Like that's a great way to solve certain problems, but I don't know. I think it's just a product of the era, and that, filmmaking just wasn't exact as what we think. It wasn't as much as a precise
right. They printed their best that they could in the editing room. They're like, oh, shit. So, like, maybe, like, right as they were going to be cutting the scene, somebody talked, like a director or somebody talked and said something. And they were just like, yep, fuck, we got to just do this way.
Back to one.
Yep. So who knows?
Yeah, it's interesting too, and as I saw those transitions and stuff, I just thought to myself, there's some Frenchman with like a 2-inch long ash off a cigarette, like in a projectionist room, being like, "Fucking come on, Henry, you got to cut it right at the right point," because again,
Right.
back then it's all cut and taped to get filmed together.
Oh, I know.
So,
Yeah, it's none of this shit nowadays where it's in Premiere
Oh yeah,
or fucking something more sophisticated. But like, it's like no, it's back then. It's we got to work with what we have.
Windows Movie Maker.
yeah, right.
Pro.
Well, yeah. Think about this. This is all analog. This is all fucking
Yeah, absolutely.
reactive film paper. It's an illusion on a reactive paper. That's all this is.
It's a
You know?
grand illusion on film paper.
Good work.
Nate,
Kudos
pull
to
up
that.
IMFDB.
So
you
yes, I think it's
swine.
time to go to IMFDB.
Du Schweine.
Jamie, look it
If
up.
you notice, there were some very interesting films in this, or guns in this movie.
There were some very interesting films in this movie.
Yes,
Well,
there
thank
were.
you.
Yeah. So on IMFDB, and let's see. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. 1911. Good old 2 World Wars.
How in the fuck did that? I literally stopped and went back a couple times during watching this to confirm that was indeed in 1911, and it
Okay.
is.
I will say that's a very strange. We have to fix that. The caption on
What the
IMFDB is
fuck?
screen used 1911 pistol carried and used
Used
by Sam Elliott
Sam
as we were
Elliott.
soldiers. So apparently, Sam Elliott's 1911 was used by a World War One
In
German
1937,
camp
they ran the
commandant.
serial numbers. They ran the
Yes.
serial numbers,
Yeah.
dude. Jesus,
It's-
Bruce.
It's Vietnam. All right.
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Oh wow,
So
he actually pulls it. Doesn't look no. It's got a silver bolt though.
No, that was a fucking different. I could not identify
it's like a
that
380 or
pistol.
something.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
some-
Yeah, I
not
could not-
that's not a 45. It's too small. That's like a 32.
So this IMFDB
Yeah.
page needs work, just like a lot of them. That's like some kind of like a 1903 hammerless.
Well, hold on.
No, it's not a 1911. It's not a fucking 1911.
No, it's definitely not a 19.
No, I know.
Garen
I'm look-
fucking
no, I
Look
at that
know
trigger
that.
group.
I know. I'm looking at the front of it. I'm trying to see that.
It's definitely a Ratum.
Yeah.
A V's 35. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They stole one from the factory as they were making them.
No, it's the FM on 1900. Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. That'll be there.
It's the gun that started the war.
No, that's not. It was a.
Was it a 1910?
No, it was a.
No, it was something else. It was
Oh fuck! It was a 1903 something.
Oh, hammerless.
Yeah,
or
but
Best
it was
Pocket.
in.
Was it
it was in 32.
was it a Colt?
A Colt 1903. I don't just.
Hey
Are you
Siri.
Googling it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
There we go.
yeah. Yeah.
Gavrilo Princip's pistol.
There's no fucking way I could spell that, or did you look it up?
Let me just look it up.
Okay, because I don't know how to spell any of the
Hey
names.
Siri.
Yeah.
Hey, I got
Siri.
a question.
Who assassinated who to get World War One? All right.
Okay, so it was a FM model 1910,
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was 1900.
which actually looks like what the fucking officer with the major's
Yeah.
carrying.
Yeah, that looks like that could be a 1910. Definitely not a 45 frame pistol.
No.
Halt.
Height, Yep.
So yeah,
the or the Mas MLE 1892.
an MLE 1892.
Very
That was
common.
interesting scene. All those guns on the table and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a lot of them are captured. He had a
Yeah.
fucking Tommy helmet, like a
Yes.
1916.
Yeah, I saw that. That was
It had
interesting.
the rim on it though, so it wasn't accurate. But hey,
Oh yeah.
Webley Mark 6, cool on the table. Yeah, the 8805. Yep.
Now this would be the modified ones you could use Spitzer rounds out of.
Yep, and you could load it with a charger clip, and
Yep.
Yep.
This is one gun I do not have. I'd like to get for my collection. Because it does tell part of the Mauser story.
It's not a Mauser rifle at all.
Well, I mean like the German rifle story would be a better way to put it.
German rifle, yeah, I guess.
You know, like into the
It's
candy.
a Schlegelmilch fucking rifle. It's not a Mauser at all. Like there was
No,
a
I know it
huge
was a wrong word
con-
to use, but yeah.
this.
This is the rifle that was basically made because of the Lebel. They were like, oh shit, we have to figure this out.
Yeah, and they were like, just use 78 or 7194 or 7184s. And they're like, no, it's outdated. Like, it's fucked. So.
They say it's an SG98 bayonet.
Yeah, a Sight and Gewehr 98. That's what it is. Also, they would not be mounted on a fucking Gewehr 88 like that. They would also, it didn't work. Didn't work out like that.
Well, it's better than the like randomly modified fucking number 4s that we saw in Death Watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so at the end of this guy, so what's weird is, so go down to the guy, the next shot. So, yeah, these guys are not frontline troops in 1916. They're wearing the Stahlhelm. Not fucking likely.
Oh, I did notice that, yeah.
Not fucking likely.
Probably to make them different than all the other Germans you've seen in the movie. Or maybe to
Maybe,
tell time. Like, it's so late when they were escaping. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, they remember a lot of time.
Because they did have that.
Yeah.
They did have the Stahlhelm you see with the kid that knocked on the window. I like that scene too.
Yeah, but he's marching to the front.
True. No, I know, but maybe again that's just to show that we're later.
So the way so if you got a Gewehr 88 05, which is what they've got. Actually, the guy's got a Gewehr 88 that he's just shouldering there. It doesn't have the magazine thing. They're not going to be wearing a Stahlhelm. They'll be wearing a Pickelhaube or a Feldmütze or
it's like an AK-47 and an SH-36. It doesn't go well together.
Right. It's just they're rear line troops. Like they're not going to be having that. Oh, the Gewehr 98. Oh, no way was that in this film.
Yeah, this one.
I'm joking.
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, yeah.
Always nice
the
to
AZ?
see the fucking spear. Yeah.
Where the fuck was the AZ?
Another gun I need for my collection.
You mean the Blur?
Oh, come on.
You mean the Blur? I don't think
The
so.
Blur, whatever. That's probably a fucking
Slot
VZ-24.
cut in the stock and the stacking swivel.
Yeah.
It's too blurry for me to tell, but
Yeah, it's
possible.
they're really
I can see it.
reaching on that one. They're reaching on that one. And again, frontline troops would have had that first. The MG08, yes, that was visible in the castle scene for sure. Yep.
Do you know the Maxim
So.
gun? And you hear it fire at one point too. During the escape. What? Xiao Xiao.
Yep.
I saw that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw that.
And again,
Oh.
that's actually fucking accurate. Again, his Landsturm, and he's using a captured weapon that they threw back into service for rear line troops.
I read somewhere that could be bullshit, but apparently flamethrower crews like to use shows, German flamethrower crews. Because they were automatics.
Maybe.
It's probably from one memoir or account or something, but I just remember.
That's it. That's all the page has.
That's it.
Well, it is a POW movie.
Yeah. Stalag was a Stalag. I don't know what the fuck. It was short as well.
Yeah, overall, I thought this film, like, because you talked it up so much, I'm one of those guys where I'm just like, if somebody else talks something up, I'm like, I never want to see it or do it just because of whatever. Like, I guess it's I don't know what the hell it is, but you know what I mean? Like
Midwestern.
Yeah.
Yeah, if somebody is talking her up, I ain't gonna see her because it means it's gonna be twice as bad as what I initially thought it was gonna be. But no, it's not like watching it. I didn't find it hard to get into it. Yeah. Hey, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and ask you about
we
my
think
Springfield?
like that over here in the coasts too, but I'm more just like that fucking kid can't paint rocks. What the fuck is he gonna think about this movie? So
Well, I wasn't gonna say it, because I'm too nice for a Midwesterner. Fuck.
well, that's just
Kid can't paint rocks.
Yeah.
No, seriously. This is no joke, Nathan.
I used to know a kid who couldn't do that either.
So we're getting a fucking free, blast to the past of Nathan's childhood
Oh, no.
of a kid who can't paint rocks. That's lovely.
No.
That's real fucking. That's lovely, Nathan.
No.
All right. Were you the kid, Nathan? Just come out and say it.
No, I painted.
It's all good.
I painted the sickest rocks, yo. Okay, I don't.
They look like frogs.
Yeah.
I put tiger stripe on them, motherfucker.
Fucking 90s rocks.
Hit me up
You
with
couldn't
my,
see them.
Yeah.
hit him up his SD page, Frogger.
Dude, don't knock Frogger.
Frogger
What the
3D.
fuck are we? We're going
I'm
down
not,
that
you know.
fucking route now.
Dude, Battletoads
We're gonna
was
knock
an amazing
Frogger.
piece of work.
Battletoads is pretty sick.
Battletoads.
I said Battletoads, you motherfucker.
Anyway, back to the movie.
Don't throw rocks at me. I painted them, all right?
So yeah, I don't know why I commented that,
You
but
did great. You put a speck of paint on them and you threw them the other way. Yeah, I'm fucking.
That's
proud
how
of
you knew
Yeah.
it was me.
These rocks I painted, son. I paint these rocks in a very specific pattern, and when you pick them up and you line them up in the right way, you'll know. You'll know the answer to everything. I just can't tell you that right now.
You can't paint your rocks red. Those are mine. You're a fake and a fraud.
why are my rocks glowing?
You're a fake and a fraud. The blue rocks is where the frog's gay. I'm telling you, I swear on my life. Yeah.
No gay frogs are harmed in the filming of this movie.
No.
No gay. Jesus Christ, Nate. Oh my God, your fucking little disclaimer there was bullshit.
I
but,
don't know about that, man. They ripped those wigs off pretty fast.
I don't even know where you were in your review. We're so far off.
I was somewhere in yeah, Nate, good luck.
I just thought
Good luck.
Yeah.
Jesus
Fucking
Christ.
So Mike,
fucking.
what'd you think of the movie?
Okay.
I know I
Yeah,
talked it
no,
up a lot and
we
everything.
gotta have Nate. We gotta have Nate just fucking cool his shit down. Dude, this is not gonna work. You can't do this. We're past the point of no return. You have to learn more than the first five.
I was gonna say,
words, Nate.
It's not even the words. It's just the tone. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
All right, so what the fuck did I think about this film? Oof. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, one minute. Okay. Yeah, no, there's a lot I could say about it. Is I like it and everything. But
I was asking you to prep me again, like I was gonna start again. But go
oh
for
sure.
it.
Oh no, I'll prep you in.
No
worries.
Because I don't fucking know. Please
Yeah.
go. Please go.
No, I'm not.
So we'll do you first.
No,
we'll do you
we're not
first.
to you. I'm about to preface
No,
you.
no,
in
no. You
3.
interrupted me. No, I can't. No.
No. No, Brian, please, for the love of God,
This is.
go first.
I'd love to know what you think, dude.
Just dry. We're already
Okay,
6
all
feet
right,
down.
okay,
Let's
all
just
right,
go
all
12.
right, all right,
Let's just
all
go
right,
12.
all right. So, I mean, well, Mike, I'd love to know your opinion.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah,
it'd be
Mike,
cool
I'd love to
start
know
off
your
with there,
opinion.
So
Yeah.
again, because people know that I have a biasness for this film. So
We're now at 18 feet below ground, but I'll go ahead and try this. Yes. So overall, very good. I thought, even for 1937, again, I don't like black and white films because of the kind of shit we talked about earlier. Like I cannot distinguish immediately between like French and Belgian uniforms and Flyers uniforms and the iron blue and all that shit. But given that, it was very good, very well acted, very well written, I thought. And the Germans played Germans very well. Like they're very kind of uptight, tight-assed, but they're not impossible. They're still people, They played that very well, and there's still a war going on. I like that. I really like that throughout the entire film of like, yes, you guys are officers, you guys are flyers, or if you're not, whatever, but you're still officers. But hey, you're playing by our rules, which is how it was, and it should be if you're a prisoner of war. The uniforms, again, we've touched on that, but like, very cool for me to like. I was sitting there literally like watching this the first time with the Landsturm guys, and I'm like, holy shit, they have a Landsturm Shaco. Holy shit, he's got a fucking. I thought it was a 7184 with a side-mounted Gras bayonet, but it was a Gewehr 88 with a side-mounted Gras bayonet, and then the next scene it was a S98 or 05, like the Butcher Blade, and I'm like, what are we doing here? That doesn't work like that. But anyway, little details like that I can definitely forgive when the overwhelming majority of it is really good. With stupid shit like that. But anyway, it was fucking awesome to see Landstorm in a film in a role they were in and would have been in, and people are just gonna be like, "Oh, it's just an Iron Cross," or like, what did you say earlier, Brian? Like, what kind of cross do you
Maltese
think it was?
cross.
Maltese cross, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it might be the Maltese cross, but like, who knows? But anyway, that's the equipment that the Landstorm would have had, and they would have had older shit and been older guys, which they were. So it was a huge detail as far as the acting and the plot and whatever. The end got a little slow for me, a little bit, but whatever, that happens in most films that you see. At some point, it's going to be a little bit slower. And for me, it was the end on this one when they were, they had escaped those two guys, and they were in the German house and whatever. It was like, okay, I get it, but like, and then, but it did leave that anticipation of what's going to happen. Are they going to get caught? Is she going to turn them in? And then all of a sudden at the end, whoo, happy ending. Overall, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. So I would recommend it for sure. I wouldn't have before I watched this because of reasons. Like Brian was always like, "Oh, it's a great movie," and I'd be like, it's a horseshit movie. But no, it definitely a 7 out of 10. It had its shortcomings, and because it's just older and there's a lot of tropes and like weird older film shit in it. It's just I'm being a fucking brat. I'm being a spoiled brat. But 7 out of 10 is good for me. So please, if you're interested in something like this, watch it. Well worth the watch. Nathan, you fucked me. Time for me to fuck you. Yep.
No, good recovery there. No, I've been quiet tonight because a lot of my interests, when it's not my historical interests, a lot of my interest is film and cinematography and the editing wise. It's hard to comment on editing unless it's very spectacular on films pretty much like before like 1955, really, because it is very bound to one style due to technology and or the what makes the film at the time. So it's hard for me to kind of talk about a lot in the moment in that sense, and then also combine it with a a part of history I'm not as knowledgeable about like Brian and Mike. So going into that, it from what I remember from French noir films, it's a slog from my college days, and that always has a stigma on myself watching films like this. But this one didn't bother me. It was very, very interesting, very well done, and going through some of the shots with Brian, like realizing things I wasn't really noticing. I will admit I was very distracted through this whole process because of my technology problem with the subtitles being ahead. I was more reading and then trying to watch, then trying to read and watch, and you miss things. So I felt like I missed a couple things. I'm gonna definitely have to go back and watch it. But overall, I mean, I was really happy with what I was seeing, and nothing historically that I know screamed at me. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give this like a 7 out of 10 Screaming Mel Gibsons. But I think I'm actually gonna probably give it another watch once I figure out how to unfuck my system. So
I can also send you the subtitle file if you.
yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, because I found Plex has a way of like downloading like a bunch, and apparently none of them worked. So yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I went sailing and it actually was fruitful. So
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think 7 out of 10 for me, and pass it off to Brian.
Nice. Yeah, no, very decent. So I think I've really beat this film to death, so I could really add is that it's really an amazing film for its time, late 30s. I was really looking at other things that were like it, and there really isn't. I mean, Gunga Din came out like 2 years later. That's the era we're talking here, like Alfred Hitchcock's very early work, the 39 Steps and things like that. Like it's really a gem for the late 30s. And it really makes me sad because 2 years later, Europe was thrust into a war. And I know that a lot of these guys ended up fighting on some side of it. And, they do this amazing job of making this humanitarian film right in the cusp of the Second World War, the Holocaust of Europe, and they did such a good job of showing what these guys went through right before some of them went through it again. So, it's just very interesting to conceptualize the film like that. And it really is the bookend to the original, All Quiet on the Western Front. And it's funny because, we haven't done that one yet. The original, we did the Netflix one, so we'll eventually talk about it and stuff. But the original is interesting because, there is a lot of overacting because it's silent actors that are trying to learn, a new format and stuff. But this film has the benefit of being 5 years after that. So talkies were around. So I feel like one of the reasons that the acting is so good is because, well, people have had a lot of experience with sound and motion. So I really wonder how different All Quiet would have been if it was filmed in the later 30s. Like if our assumptions would have changed, And also, as I watched this, I thought about it again, also if that was in the correct languages, if it wasn't in English, and how, more powerful that would have been. But no, it's just like, if you're going to watch any war films from before the Second World War, I really feel like The Grand Illusion and what do you call it? All Quiet are the two best French ones, at least, or Western Front ones, because they really they get into the nitty gritty of everything. Like Hell's Angels is cool. Don't get me wrong; it's very great, but that's a real war film. That's like, oh, fighting in the sky is crazy. But this film, you're just like, wow, we're just we're kind of just like the Christmas special film, Joe Weeks Noel. It's like we're kind of just victims of our governments and everything, and we're just sent places to do things, and yeah. But
I say that in the car. I go walk out of the car. I did it the other day. I'm like, Joe X Noel.
No, it's interesting film, and it's very even sided too,
Yep.
Because you look at Strauss-Truppen, 1918, that came out in 35, and then you look at this, you're like, which has the better message? So it's a very interesting movie, made during incredibly turbulent times. I much would have thought something like this would be made in the 20s versus the 30s, like on the march to war. But so taking all that in consideration, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Mostly because I think it's really good. I think it's really good for its time. It really only loses points of it is a bit dated with some of its, shots and stuff, like the transitions like we talked about. And around the escape scene, it turns a bit theatrical. That was the only time where I was just like, the veil is being lifted, like up to that point, a good 90 minutes into the movie. It's a long time to keep the illusion going. I was very enthralled. I was like, wow, this is, it's very hard to look away. But once that started happening, it was like, you're starting to pull me away. It dragged on a little too long. But no, it's a really good movie, and it holds up to the hype. If anybody has ever run into the hype around this film, it's definitely worth a watch, and 100% worth a watch if you're on a, pre-war World War I film kick. It's worth watching. So, putting all of our scores into the computer that will tell us if we will escape from this German POW camp, we get a score of 7.6. So, yeah, definitely worth a watch. And, maybe you'll get a higher score. Maybe you'll have a lesser score. But it's really good film that holds up, 85 years after it was made. So,
Yep.
I'd much rather watch this than watch the new All Quiet on the Western Front any day of the week. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, guys. It's been a lot of fun. We hope to see you guys next week when we look at 1898, The Last Men of the Philippines. So we'll be going back to the Spanish-American War. So yeah, hope to see you guys there.
Hey everyone, Mike here. If you want to support the podcast even more than just listening to it, you can head to patreon.com/Scuttlebutt podcast. There you get access to our Discord server, and you can be in direct contact with us and all the other fellow people who enjoy the podcast. Get early access to episodes, and also you will have influence on future episodes we may or may not do. So it's well worth it. I appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a rating. Otherwise, Mel Gibson won't stop screaming. If you like this content, make sure to check out our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. If you want to directly support our work, make sure to check out our Patreon. All these links are in the description below. Until the next time, Scuttlebutt out. We join the Dawn Patrol and get shot down behind the trenches this week with Jean Renoir's... Oh, I gotta...
It's Jean.
Jean. Renoirs.
You add French to it, and Brian just
Jean.
What is it again? Jean what? Spell it out.
Renoirs.
Renoir. So
what the
just
fuck?
literally, no, like
Yeah,
literally just
I
write out.
thought it'd be that.
Yep.
So Jean Renoir.
Yep.